Hi there, welcome to Sean Cameron Photographic. Thank you for coming back. If you remember in the last video, I was using this camera. It's the R6, the Canon R6. I was also using this lens, the 70-200. I was using it with the adapter. And I was also using the Atomos Ninja. And we had some really odd results. Well, we aim to put that to bed by reducing those factors that may have led to those soft focus issues. Now, it could have been the older 70-200 lens, so that needs testing. Or the EF to RF lens adapter. Okay, let's do away with it. It could have been the way I was using the Ninja's screen as it was overriding the viewfinder and I was having to use that instead of the viewfinder. It could have been the camera itself, of course, or could it be, oh, you'd hate to think that, wouldn't you? Or I'll tell you what, it could have been the nut behind the camera. Yep, guys, it could have been me. I know it's hard to tell. Hard to believe that. So let's solve the camera problem. It could have been the camera. So this isn't the same camera. It's not even from the same source. So unless it's a hitch with the whole R6 range, that deals with the first anomaly. Okay, the original lens, the one I used last time, this will be tested alongside the R6 using a 1DX camera. And the R6 has its own RF mounted 70-200 2.8. So no need for that adapter. Loads of test boxes ticked there, eh? I won't be using the Atomos Ninja. So all shots will be taken using the camera itself, using the viewfinder. Though actually we will mount a GoPro to the R6 just so that we can show the action. But it's not plugged into it, so it's not actually taking any notice of it. It won't affect it. So what about that last one? Well, Jamie and I will both use this camera. So if we both come across similar focus issues to last time, that's more conclusive. Because it isn't just me. And I tell you what, conclusive is the word. After the last video, we want solid conclusions and some kind of closure. So before we move on, let's take a closer look at this RF 70-200. Now this is the 2.8 version. It retails at £2,729. So it's not the F4 version, which is a grand cheaper and also very good, but I want the 2.8. Now the older EF mounted lens weighs in at 1,489 grams. While this relatively lightweight newcomer, well 2019 anyway, is only 1,302 grams. Oddly it feels less, and while we're talking about feel, I'm really sorry to say, but it feels a little bit plasticky. Now, I'd normally not try to drop my equipment, but if I do, I like to know that it'll probably bounce. And my guess is that this would bounce. However, it'll probably then distribute itself around a large area and wait patiently to be swept up. Unlike the older cousin, which in the past has bounced quite successfully, whilst managing to keep all its bits in place. Anyway, back to this one. It's a compact zoom and it's a lot easier to pack away because it's considerably shorter. It's got loads of switches that I'm not going to go through on the side, but I will mention my favourite thing, this control ring. And that can be set to control aperture. How amazing and modern. Hold on, didn't we do that before? We used to do that years ago, didn't we? Anyway, seriously, it can be also programmed to adjust shutter speed, ISO, or even exposure compensation. And I kind of like that idea. I'm afraid I like that. But I tell you what, let's attach it to the R6. Its rightful place. Oh, I hate these. They're always the wrong way round. If you're a Nikon user, This whole thing works the wrong way around. Now, red to red, I'm told. What could possibly go wrong on camera, eh? Oh, well, there we go. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. So, it balances beautifully. Even more so when it's extended. I've got to say, actually, I find it a bit as ugly as sin. I don't like these extending ones, but it's the way they've made it compact. And it actually balances quite nicely. It does balance quite nicely. It's a little bit back heavy, but no, I like that. Anyway, let's wind it back again because it actually looks better like that. Now, I started off this second test by lending this to the local teenager. Yeah, the one that I normally use as a model. He seemed to like both the R6 and lens, as after about 30 minutes of using it, he came back with, "It's all right, isn't it?" So with that roaring endorsement, Jamie and I set off for Marwell. Over to the images. Okay, let's start by looking at the images from the last test. Just to remind you of the problem. We decided to show you the full sequence of images so you can see that I wasn't cherry picking the very worst. And that would be just to be controversial, and that would be wrong. Don't worry, before you all get bored and switch off, we're going to go through these pretty quickly. So do not fast forward. As you can see, they were consistently soft time and time again. Now, to prove where the focus point was, I'm going to be using Canon's own Digital Professional 4. And we can see that except for a couple of times, the focus point was always on the eye. Now, to be honest, that confuses me, because if the focus point is showing to be on or around the eye, then surely it should be in focus, shouldn't it? Now, I'm no Canon engineer and I don't know the way they've set their software up, but it would seem logical to me. So why are we getting consistently soft focus with a still subject? Now, let's move on to the current test. These were taken with the same shutter speeds, the same aperture and the same ISO as the previous photos. We are trying to replicate the previous test as closely as we can. We decided the fairest way to choose the images is simply to pick the first 7 meerkat images from each camera. So to start with, I'll compare the images. There are a lot of images in this statement. Anyway, we're going to compare the images from the original EF lens, now on the 1DX, to the R6 with its RF lens. All of these have had the same preset editing from the original RAW files, so just the basic stuff, sharpening, touch of contrast, etc. No cropping, not yet. It's worth remembering that the 1DX has no face tracking, and so Jamie used single point focus. It makes no difference to the test. After all, it's the lens, not the camera, that we're testing here. We are testing the R6 and the RF lens, however, and to me, these are looking good. Both sets are sharp and show similar quality. And now the R6 compared to the Z6 II. Second one in, and the Z6 II looks soft around the eye. If we look at where the focus point was, now that makes sense, doesn't it? It had dropped down and off the face. Onto the next, and to me, both are looking good. And so are the rest from both camera. So, was I cropping in too much previously? Let's have a quick look at those last couple of images cropped in again. And yet again, I've chosen randomly. In fact, I used number 1, 5 and 7 from each of the last set. And these are cropped into the same amount as those soft images that we started with. So the conclusion has to be the previous lens was good. It may be an oldie, but I think we've proven that it's a goodie. The R6 and the Z6 II photos were taken by me and the 1DX by Jamie. And just in case my R6 images were soft, Jamie took some with it as well. But we haven't had to use them. So I'm pleased to rule me out as the cause. So was it just a duff camera? Possibly. But it did take some good shots too, and that wasn't consistently bad. Was it me viewing through the Atomos? Again, possibly. But later on in the test, I used the rear screen to take images of the meerkats with no noticeable difference. So the only conclusion that I can come to is that it was a poor interaction between the older lens and the R6 via the EF to EOS R adapter. We've eliminated everything else. Job done. Well, almost. I can't let that conclusion pass without mentioning that those Z6 II images that we used, remember the ones looking quite sharp? They were taken via an FTZ adapter. Food for thought? Thank you so much for joining me, and if you liked what you saw, hit the like button. And if you really like it, do please click to subscribe. It's free and you don't get a better deal than that. It also means an awful lot to me. Take care. See you all soon. Bye.